Okay, I was live and then I was not live. This is new to me, so bear with me. Okay, so while I have no questions and oh, Emma's here. God bless you, Emma. It might just be me and Emma this morning for a bit, but that's fine. So while I'm sitting here, I guess well, this is I guess kind of the end of school for me, so I'd like to thank all my teachers. You guys were amazing. You got us all through. Super supportive. Um, yeah, it was good. It was great. Yeah, it's just going to be the Bethany and Emma show this morning, I think, for an hour at least. I don't exactly remember who's after me. I think it might be Michael. Yeah, so Michael's at 11. Emma, you're making me cry. It's a sad day. It's the last day of 2 years of school. Honestly, I'm shocked that I even have one person because I would not probably be sat down at my computer screen on my couch right now. I don't even know what to babble on about. I feel like I'd be repeating myself from the other day. Emma, I'm not working today, so you got me. Perfect. I have Emma for an hour. It'll be me and her, back and forth. She'll type, I'll talk. Girl gang is probably asleep, yeah. In our class, we called ourselves Girl Gang because there was like five of us that were really close and hung out every day at school, so that is the Girl Gang. Emma's going to send me a bunch of questions, which is great because if you give me a topic, I can talk for a long time. What was your favorite course and why? What did you find super hard to get the hang of? Oh, super hard to get the hang of is definitely motion, just because that's kind of the hardest thing to learn. I think it's very technical. If you mess one thing up, the whole project is probably messed up. And if you delete one file off your desktop, it's no longer going to work anymore. So motion was probably definitely the hardest, especially After Effects. Adobe Illustrator isn't too bad because it's all vector and that one's pretty easy, but After Effects is you really got to be careful when you're doing it. You really need to be like in the zone when you're doing it and make sure that you do everything properly. So I would say the hardest thing for me to get the hang of was motion. And also with motion too, if you stop doing it for a while, if you haven't done it in a while, it kind of takes you a couple minutes to get back into the swing of it because there's so many steps and so many things that you have to make sure you do properly. So definitely motion. My favorite course and why? Oddly enough, I think my favorite course was production. I loved production. I love production. Um, we did that in second year, so I think for me, after doing all the computer work and designing everything in first year, it was nice to finally get stuff printed and be hands on and learn the equipment and make sure that your files are set up properly because if your files aren't set up properly, really they're no good. So I'd say production was actually my favorite course. I used to get pretty wild in production. I got pumped every time I was in production class. It was good. What has been your favorite project? My favorite project. That's a hard one. I would have to probably say when we did our music project group. So there was a group of us students that worked with two of the music students. And that was fun because it was more of like a real world experience. We had an actual client, we had two clients, brainstorming together, getting stuff done together. It worked out really well. It was a stressful project for our whole class, but I think we handled it really well. So yeah, I think I learned a lot from that project. It was good. Where would you want to work if you had to pick somewhere in NL? That is kind of a hard question. Where would I want to work? I think there's a lot of great companies. Obviously, there's a lot of great agencies here, but there's a lot of great companies that actually have an in-house graphic designer. So that's something that I'm not opposed to. I think working in an agency, you have the opportunity, if you really take advantage of it, to learn a lot from people already in the industry who have lots of experience, know exactly what they're doing. And if you're observant enough, and you can really learn a lot of things from those people. So I think that that's kind of a good asset when you're first starting out is, I mean, we don't know everything. We just did 2 years of school, but graphic design is constantly evolving. And I mean, we still don't know that much. We know school, we know how to use the programs, but we don't have a lot of experience with actually working. So I think working with an agency would be great starting out. But as far as being an in-house graphic designer, I think that's really cool too because you know the brand that you're working for every time. So there's not that like, oh, let me gauge what the client wants sort of aspect. You already know because you work for the client always. So I kind of don't really know if I have an answer to that because I'm pretty open right now. I think everything is a learning opportunity. So no matter where I do end up, I'm sure I'll learn a lot there. How was working with other students? I love working with other students. I think the great thing about doing graphic design is you're all creative people. So you can learn a lot from talking to somebody else who has passion about the same things that you do. And I think our class is really diverse in everyone's like talents and strengths and styles. So it's nice to learn from other people, kind of pick stuff up from them and they can pick stuff up from you. And everyone kind of has something to learn from everybody in class. So working with other students, I think, is super important because it gets you ready for the real world. If you're working at an agency, you're working with probably a bunch of designers, creative directors. You're working with a lot of people. So really, I know a lot of times people think that being a graphic designer is like a solo job, but not necessarily. The only time that it is a solo job really is if you're doing freelance work. And then when you're doing freelance work, you still have to talk to the client. So I think there's a good opportunity to learn from other students and better your skills by picking up stuff from them and getting ideas from them. And also it makes you more, willing to gain information and feedback from other people because sometimes it's easy to be defensive about your work or feel like you have to defend it. But at the end of the day, everyone has the same goal unless they want to make a good project and they want to like make the client happy. So working with students was good. What would you like to improve on in the next few years? I'd like to improve on my illustration. I think the kind of hard thing for me about my portfolio is I know it's not my best work. I think my best work isn't done yet. I think I work best when it's real, when the client is real, when the situation is real, when I know that there's somebody that I need to please with my work. So I don't think my best work is up on my portfolio yet because I don't think I've done it yet. Um, I think as a designer, you want to constantly improve, anyways. Nobody is perfect. Nobody knows everything. And the thing about being a graphic designer, it's a creative space. So in a creative space, there's not necessarily a black and white, right and wrong. Um, it comes down to opinions and what you think and the audience. And I think you're constantly evolving. So improve on. I think I would like to improve on everything in the next couple of years. I'd like to build my strengths in everything that I do now. Learn some new things, maybe learn some new programs, just better myself overall as a designer. Do you have a favorite thing to do in graphic design, layout design, etc.? I think for me, it's not necessarily what I'm doing, it's what I'm doing it for. Uh, I find it kind of hard because a lot of people in our class have like favorite things to do, like, oh, they love web design or they love illustration or they. For me, it's more of, do I love the project? If I love the project, I'll go all out, and I find that the whole time that I'm doing it, I'm enjoying it. Whether it's layout, whether it's web design, whether I'm making a brochure, whether it's illustration. I find if I like the project, it's easy for me to just flow all those things together. So I don't even know if I have a favorite thing to do in graphic design. I feel like that's odd of me to say because most people do, but I don't mind doing layout. A lot of people hate layout, but I like layout. Uh, illustration. Sometimes illustration is super easy and just flows, or other times it's a bit more challenging. But even when it's challenging, you're broadening your skills. So I don't know if I do have a favorite thing. I think it's more of what I'm doing it for. That's exciting to me. Emma is doing great at feeding me the questions. It's only me and her, but it's good. What is your thought process when it comes to designing a logo? First off, I want to know what the company is. What is it that they are branding? So I'll research, see what feel I get for the company. Is it very creative? Is it very corporate? Is it, who's the person I'm designing it for? It needs to be representative of the company, but it also needs to capture the audience that they're targeting. So for me, it all comes down to research right away. Sometimes when I'm designing a logo, it comes to me right away. And I'm like, oh, this would be great. So I'll jot it down and make thumbnails and make notes. But research is really the first thing for me. Emma's really keeping me going with the questions. Would you ever want to do something for a huge corporation like Pepsi or Coke? Absolutely. I think working with a big corporation would be a completely different experience than working with a small starting out company. Um, when you're working with a big company like that, they already have branding. They already have decades of what they have done, what they haven't done, why they didn't do other things. They have brand standards. So it would be a different experience. It's more of, are you keeping the brand in line with where they want to be, where they have been, instead of trying to create a brand. So I think that'd be a different experience, especially when you're being in Newfoundland. A lot of companies that you work with are smaller companies or companies that are just starting out, or you're creating. A lot of times people go to a graphic designer to create a logo because they're just starting. So to work with a company that's already has decades of experience and history and design, I think that would be interesting. I think it'd be different. Do you think you'll ever have your own website and domain with your prices, etc.? Possibly. If I was to do freelance work, I think that I may. I don't know about prices. Prices are really tricky. I think as a graphic designer that's starting out, that was probably one of the hardest things for us to try and figure out because, like, what is your hourly rate? What are you charging? Or how much is that project? Or hourly rate isn't really great for certain projects. And prices, I think, for me are more go off what you're doing, who the client is, how much work, well, essentially, how much work are you putting into it? Is it an hour job? Because if it's an hour job, it's, probably wouldn't make sense to charge an hourly rate. Um, yeah, I think prices are tricky, but as far as freelance goes, I don't know if freelance is really something that I would want to do right now. That's something maybe down the road that I would like to do, but I think I still have a lot left to learn. Again, just coming out of school, we don't know everything. And I'd like to gain as much knowledge as I can from other professionals. So for me, I'd really love to work with other designers for a while before I go off on my own, if I do go off on my own. What would you do if you have a client that you are getting nowhere with? If I have a client that I am getting nowhere with, I would sit down and have the discussion of let's refocus. That's really hard working with somebody and you feel like you're going around in circles. But if you're going around in circles, something isn't working somewhere. So you're not getting what they're saying, or you're not reading in between the lines enough of what they're saying, or maybe you're not being strong enough with the reason that I did this is, or the reason I designed it like this is. So I think that comes down to having that hard conversation of, okay, I feel like we're getting a little off track. I feel like we're not getting where we want to be. What can we reevaluate? What can we change? What isn't working? I think, well, again, I'm only fresh, but I think sometimes clients and designers just don't see eye to eye, or they don't work out, and I think that's okay. Um, they could probably be referred to somebody else if it just was not working for you, but I think it's important to always try your best to make sure that that client leaves happy. And in them leaving happy, I think you kind of have to be a little bit blunt and be like, okay, there's an issue here. Let's try and correct it. Let's try and fix it. Jay is here. Hello, Jay. It's going to be me, you, and Emma this morning. Would you like to own a studio one day? Absolutely would. Um, I would love to have an at-home workspace. Right now, obviously, that is not feasible. I'm a student, but one day I would like to have an office studio set up with lots of space, lots of room, lots of design toys, um, good printer, a big workspace. Yeah, I would definitely love to have my own studio. Whether it's a personal studio or just studio where people could come, get design work done. I definitely want a personal studio. Jay said, yes, try to find common ground and move on from there. So that was about the what do you do if you're getting nowhere with a client. I think it's important to refocus. Yeah. And he also said, I'm cool with it being the three of us. Perfect, because it probably will be the three of us. Telling me that I have 3 viewers, so I have a lurker. Somebody who's not asking questions as well. I always wonder who's watching. If it says that you have 3 people or 4 people, who are those people? Because typically there's always one. Oh, they left. I called them out and they left. Also, if you hear something grunting or banging in the background, that is just my dog wagging his tail, or he just likes to grunt. Emma, Why did you think in your first week of graphic design? Oh my God, my first week of graphic design, I was like, Bethany, you are not supposed to be here. What you are doing is awful. You have no idea how to use the programs. Everyone else to me seemed so much more advanced in what they were doing and they knew how to use things. And I actually felt like a fish out of water. I seriously, in that first week, was like, crap. I don't know if I should be in this course at all. Um, yeah, that was interesting. And at first, in your first week, of course, in your first week, you don't really know anybody. You awkwardly talk to people, and, like, hi, and then you eat lunch in your car alone. Um, it quickly changed. I quickly started to learn how to use the programs, but and I quickly got friends. But that was a hard week. The first week was holy shit. I obviously can't do this. I feel like Jay will probably remember that because he probably looked at me like I was a deer in headlights 1,000 times that week because he'd come over and I'd have something new happening and I didn't know how to use anything and yeah, that was interesting. I definitely was not very confident in myself for I'd say the first month really of graphic design was like, oh shit, what am I doing? Emma, you really got the good questions. You're really keeping me going here. Yeah, see, but to me, Emma just said legit me, oh my God. So she felt the same, but from my point of view as a person who doesn't know anybody else in this class, I was thinking I was the only one that didn't know what I was doing. And of course, there's people there that already knew how to use some of the programs and stuff, 100%. I mean, I feel like when you're first starting out, everyone kind of is at different wavelengths. Um, they probably know a little bit more than you, but they're still feeling the same way as, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. But when you don't know anybody, you're looking around like, oh, they know what they're doing. Oh, that looks good. Oh, how do they do that? And there's no communication. So you think you're the only one that has no idea what is going on and is kind of regretting your decision for a week of doing graphic design. John said everyone. John. I just said John. That was so weird. Jay said everyone is the same. Yeah. You don't know that though. You don't know that in the first week, or you don't believe it because your teachers tell you that, but you don't believe it in your head. You're way behind. And we're trying to figure out where all of you are coming from and what you can do too. So we're kind of nervous as well. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. From Jay's standpoint, is he has no idea these people either. So they just came into his class that day and started to do things. So they could have absolutely zero idea, like myself, because I hardly knew how to use any of the programs. Or they could be well versed in it. So I guess it's kind of a weird start for you guys too. Is how do I teach low enough that the people don't have a lot of understanding can grasp it, and how do I keep it elevated enough so that the people that do know what's going on kind of stay on track. So I could see how that would be hard. Actually, it's funny that Emma asked that because I have not thought about the first week of school in a very long time. It's something I think I put in the very back of my brain and didn't want to think about it ever again. That was awful. So Jay just said also those people who have skills might have a bunch of bad habits. We have to help them unlearn. That's true enough, yeah. I mean, well, actually, this kind of brings me to another question the other day. Um, I think it was asked to Emma about music students branching off into graphic design, which I think is great, and it makes a lot of sense because they're creative people. It's a creative field, so it makes sense that people be well versed in both. Um, my big thing is there's a lot of self-taught graphic designers, which is cool. You learn a lot off the internet, but and I'm not dissing on it at all, but I think when you go to school and you actually do graphic design, you learn a lot of things that you can't learn on the internet. And that's like Jay just said, how to do things properly and how to not have bad habits and how to set up your files so that other people can read them and color theory and why layout is important and There's a lot of things that, yeah, like you can learn on YouTube how to draw a globe or how to draw an apple, and that's great. But if you're drawing an apple and you're like, I drew a red apple, cool, but why did you draw a red apple? Why isn't it a green apple? Why is that appropriate for the client? Why does that get your point across? You learn the psychology behind it, and that's what a lot of people don't see, which is fine, but they subconsciously see it, and we know that. And there's certain colors that you should not use when you're doing a food logo or designing their website, and that's stuff that you can't really Google. You learn that from people with experience, and you learn that from your teachers, and you learn that because they learned that from somebody, or they learned that from working with their client. And what you don't get from learning online is you don't get a teacher. Yeah, you can learn how to draw stuff, you can learn how to use websites, you can learn how to use programs, but you're not learning the psychology behind it. You're not learning color theory. You're not learning why we do what we do, and that's super important. Um, Again, if you are somebody who is a self-taught graphic designer, super cool, great, but maybe try to look into that kind of stuff. Maybe try to branch off and see, like, okay, yeah, like I'm a really good illustrator and I love illustrating, and that's great. But try to go deeper. Try to learn a little bit deeper. I think that's really important. Yeah. Emma just said, big question. Do you think you made the correct choice doing graphic design? Absolutely. Um, I've been saying since high school I wanted to do graphic design, and then I got kind of stuck in the slump of I'll take a year off and I'll work. So I graduated in 2013, so I've been working for a good while. But whenever somebody would say, if you were to go to college and do something, what would you do? I would say graphic design. And funny enough, I didn't know what graphic design was. I don't think most of us know really entirely what graphic design is until we actually go to school and do all of our courses. It's graphic design, and people are like, oh, you draw pictures. And I mean, yeah, but there's a lot more to it. And it kind of takes a certain type of brain to be a graphic designer. Everything you look at is graphic design. Like I'm looking out into my laundry room and there's Tide Pods, and that package was designed. That logo was designed. Anything that you see that's type, that was designed. Anything that you see that's colored, that was designed. And I think sometimes it's hard for people to grasp that don't have a creative mind like that. So they say, oh, you draw pictures. Yeah, I draw pictures, but there's a lot more to graphic design than what people think. And the great thing about that program is it's so broad. If you want to focus on one thing, you can. If you want to be a jack of all trades and kind of broaden yourself out and learn as much as you can about most things in design, you can. So I think I absolutely did the right thing. I think somehow I knew I wanted to be a graphic designer for a really long time, even though I didn't fully understand what it was. If Emma was at everyone's lives and just asked people questions, we would never have to do the awkward silence that we all have to do at some point during our lives. Which she doesn't do the awkward silence because she's all professional about doing her streaming, but you're halfway through. You're right, I am halfway through. I thought I was going to have to cut it off at some point. I feel like depending on what time of the day your live is too also happens to kind of depend on how many people you will get. Emma said, the one day I don't work is today. And Jay said, I just let some people know you're live right now. Oh, maybe we'll get some more viewers. Maybe I'll get some more questions. And Emma can take a break. A well-deserved break. It's hard too for the teachers and the people that have been watching everyone's lives to try to come up with questions to ask people that they probably already asked the day before to somebody else. I guess we all give different answers, which is kind of an interesting point to that. If someone asked one question, we all came back with our answer, I'm sure they'd all be different, or most of them would be different. So I guess you're getting different opinions from everybody. Emma Emma said, I'm not stopping. Emma's going to keep the questions coming. And Jay said, I don't mind filling up empty airtime either. Perfect. These people know that I will chat as long as there's something to talk about. My dog just grunted again. I'm sorry. Actually, another thing is interesting is how everyone's approached the lives. It's very obvious to see that some people do this all the time, like Emma and Colin, and like Michael the other day seemed pretty comfortable talking. So obviously, there's people that do this and don't mind doing it, and there's people like myself that are a little bit outside their comfort zone in doing it. Um, there's something very scary about silence sometimes. Okay. So Emma said, I love listening to you, Bethany. You're so full of inspiring thoughts. Thank you, Emma. I try to be as positive as I possibly can because there's no point to be negative. It's not going to get you anywhere. That is my mindset. And Jay said, so what does your dream job look like? My dream job is with a company or agency that I love working at. And obviously, like a lot of people in my class, I want to be a director. So that is my dream. That is where I want to be. I think that's where I would be content. Um, I love working my way up in a company. I've had jobs before where I've worked my way up, and I find it really fulfilling to know that you are doing a good job and that you strive every day to do a good job and push yourself further. And I'm really, really in tune with learning from other people. I want to learn as much as I possibly can from other people, especially people that I'm working with that have been where I am. You can learn a lot of experience from them. They've gone through things and challenges that you haven't yet. They know what they're doing, obviously, if they're moving up in the company. So I think as long as you're a sponge where you're working and you gain as much knowledge as you possibly can, you can move up. You can always improve on your skills. You can improve on your leadership skills. You can improve on your confidence. And that's really where my dream job would be, is in a company where I can work my way up, or in maybe a couple different companies where I learn skills from other people and work my way up, and eventually I'll be a director. And was it, honestly, girl, it's different when you're playing games like myself because I'm focusing on things. Yeah, that makes sense. That's true enough. Emma was just saying how I said earlier that she's obviously comfortable at streaming, but she said even for her it was different. So here's other people waiting for you to ask. That's true enough, I guess. The thing about the way that we've been doing these streams is you're kind of depending on people to ask you questions. So you are kind of just waiting, or even if you start talking about a random topic, you're wondering if people are even interested in hearing about you talk about that topic. So I guess it's a little odd for everybody to be doing this. And Jay said, and it's a great skill to have. You're doing a great job. Thank you, Jay. Jay was always the teacher that I'd go to when I felt like I was falling apart, which I feel like is common. I feel like that is Jay to everybody. But every time I'd be like, Jay, I have no idea what I'm doing or what is going on, or I don't know how to do this, or I don't know what to do about this, I would always go to Jay. I feel like he could tell by the look on my face that I was like, I need help. Emma said, I personally think you're the number one person in regards to getting things done. Thank you, Emma. I try really hard to be productive. I'm really lucky in the sense, I think when it comes to graphic design, I keep saying that I waited to go do graphic design, whatever, but I'm really happy that I did wait because If I had gone into doing graphic design right out of high school, I don't think I would have got the same thing out of it for me personally, just because I learned a lot of experience from working. I learned leadership skills from working. I learned how to be organized on top of things from working, and how to deal with people, I think, from working. So I think for me, even though it was like, oh, I waited and I waited so long, and I kind of regret the fact that I waited till I was in my mid 20s to do graphic, way it was the right time for me to do it, because I came in with a skill set that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And Emma and Chelsea are the youngest two in our class, and I did not have the maturity level that they have at their age when I was their age. No way whatsoever. So I'm really glad that I did it when I did it. And Emma said, Jay is such a calming soul. It's so nice. Jay is a very calming soul. And he said, thank you both. You're very kind. He really is. He's definitely the dad out of our teachers. You go to Jay because he is the dad. He'll give you lots of good advice, and he'll calm you down when you're about to climb up the wall with stress. And he also said, interesting point, Bethany. Life experience matters a lot and can be a big help. Yeah, I feel like that helped me a lot. Life experience, yeah. That big time did help me, because I did not have the confidence or leadership skills or anything when I was 18 or 19, so Emma basically just said, I think we all did graphic design at the same time for a reason. Yeah, so there's five of us that are really close in our class and talk all the time, still talk all the time, even though we haven't been in class for months. The good thing about that too, I think, about our friend group or friendship there, is that we're all different. We're all very different. And that helps us because we're all graphic designers, so we all have something in common. We all have stuff in common, anyways, but we all learn a lot from each other because we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And that's like our whole class in general. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, so it's just good to learn from other people and bounce stuff off other people. And if you have a question, you know exactly who to go to. So that was really helpful. That's really nice. Jay just said some of the students from Craig's graduating class still get together and have stayed friends for almost 2 decades now. I think that'll be us. I 100% think that'll be us. We've gone through a lot of stress together in 2 years, so we've seen each other at our worst, I think, and our best. Also, the graphic design community here in general, I feel like, is really close knit, and there's events and things where you will be able to see other graphic designers. So I feel like we'll be seeing people from our class anyways. If they're still in Newfoundland, I feel like you'll be running into them. You'll be like, oh, I know so and so who works there, and that's kind of always a great thing too, is that you already know people going out into industry with you. So that's great. Emma said, I honestly think we're going to be friends for a very long time. Me too, Emma. This has turned into a friendship chat. Andy is here. Hi, Andy. Andy helped us with a lot of our ideas for our design show that we were going to have, and was kind enough to do a lot of printing for us. So that was great. Thank you, Andy. So did Paul, also. Paul printed a bunch of cards, and I was very annoying about it. And Jay said, yes, it's a very supportive community, and a bunch of them are alumni, so there's a natural connection there. Yeah. It's easy to connect with people that have the same passions that you do. And Andy said, I know many designers and communications grads that I keep in contact with since we were in class together like 6 years ago. It's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that will be us. I think we haven't tight enough bond to be like that, or to at least, be like, oh my god, I haven't seen you in like 2 years. How are things? You definitely get a, not only as, well, I guess as a community, you have a strong connection anyways, but you've gone through a lot of stress together, I think is a big thing, as a class in general. So, stress or a lot of tasks or obstacles, I guess. Emma said, I feel like it's super competitive downtown where all the agencies are. Yeah, I guess that's the other thing too, is it's community, but it's a competitive community, especially if you're working in different agencies, because you're probably bidding on a lot of the same projects. So I guess there's always going to be that healthy kind of, not rivalry, but competitiveness, I guess, between designers, because you are both doing the same thing. But I think there's always an appreciation about, you appreciate other people's work and you see the effort that went into that. So I guess there's always kind of a little bit of a competitiveness between designers. So what are you going to do to celebrate graduating? Any plans in these times? So what are you going to do to celebrate graduating? I'm probably going to have a couple beers. I've been doing that a lot lately, anyways, but this weekend's supposed to be nice, so I'll probably just enjoy outside, have a couple drinks, do a couple hikes. Um, that's all I plan on doing. I wouldn't really want to do much more than that, anyways, if I'm being honest. Obviously, we would have loved to have the grad show. The grad show for me would have been the celebration, I think, but for me, it's just have a couple drinks, enjoy outside. And Andy said, sometimes I get work to print and finish at the shop, and I'd be like, this was Vanessa, or this was Cynthia. And it was always cute to see both of us working in the field and recognizing this work. That is really cool. I said the other day in my live thing too, is I can always recognize other people's work, and I can be like, oh, that was 100% Emma, or that was 100% whoever, because I can look at it and know that that's their style, which is always kind of really cool. Um, that people have like an identity behind their work. And a lot of times as designers, obviously people don't necessarily know when we design something. Like if we designed a poster, like my name isn't on the poster, but I feel like I could look at something and be like, that was probably whoever, which is pretty cool. And Annie said, enjoy early summer. And Emma said, Bethany, start early. You know what? I probably will start early. I will probably, after this, go sit outside with my dog and have a beer. And she said, no virtual graphic design party with your class? No, we do not have a virtual graphic design party planned for our class. Maybe, though. Maybe. I feel like everyone's still keeping busy, even though, obviously, if you're not working, you probably have a bit more time on your hands. I feel like we're all still kind of in school mode, where you're trying to get your resumes out and get stuff up to date and get organized. So it's kind of a weird end because it doesn't feel like you're done, but we are done. I don't think people are into it either, Emma. Maybe me and Emma will have a FaceTime party. have 15 minutes left. I feel like I have 15 minutes left till I graduate, which is a weird feeling. It's like a countdown. It's also a weird way to graduate. I really hope that the students coming into second year now coming up get to have their show. I really hope that they do get to have that. And not an online one. Online was great. Our teachers put this together, so that was awesome that they did that for us and tried their best to get us to have a show online. But I really hope that the next graduating class gets to have their big show, and I hope they get to do some big plans. And yeah, I hope they have that. Emma said, Bethany, we can go to their show. We will absolutely go to their show. If any students are watching this that are going to have a show next year, me and Emma will absolutely go. So send us an invite. We did a lot of planning for our show, so we will live through them. Okay, I'm probably going to clue this up here now. Um, Jay and Andy, if you're still here, thank you for being amazing teachers. I learned a lot from both of you. I appreciate it. I'll probably reach out to you in the future and harass you about something or ask you questions about something. Um, I think the program is only as great as it is because the teachers are so great, so I appreciate it. And to all the other teachers, if you end up watching this, Ray, Craig, Paul, thank you for everything that you've done for us. I think we're really lucky that we have a broad group of teachers. I feel like every time I had an issue, I knew the teacher I was going to go to with that problem, and that's always really good and comforting. It's like something would happen and be like, oh, that's a Jay problem. I'd be like, oh, that's a Craig problem. Absolutely. Um, so yeah, that was really comforting. Thank you for being great. This is, I don't know, I guess it's the end of school now. Um, so yeah, that's it. I'm going to end it there. Jay said, yes, you need something for closure. The college is holding a virtual grad. Yes. You guys are awesome. That's what Emma said. You guys are awesome. All of you were 100%. Okay, so that's it. I'm gone. Thank you for tuning in, or thank you for watching this later. Bye.